Time to get spooky. The NES was released in 1985, and with it came a huge amount of games over the next 10 years. One of the most popular genres of video games is horror, and the NES actually had a few decent scary games. Now, because early horror games aren't what they are today, I'm taking some liberty into this list and including games that feature spooky plots, enemies, and settings, not just classic horror titles. And yes, while I could include the Castlevania games on this list, I will not, because that's another list for another day. But before we get into this horror list, if this is your first time on my channel, or if you just haven't yet, make sure you hit that sub button to watch plenty of NES content, from countdowns and retrospectives. Get ready to face your fears, because we are looking at NES horror games.
Now you're playing with power.
Dr. Chaos. Dr. Chaos was your typical mad scientist. He owned an extensive mansion and spent his time experimenting within it on things that mankind was never meant to know. His latest invention is an interdimensional warp gate which allows access to worlds beyond our own. As the Doctor's younger brother Michael, you arrive at Dr. Chaos's mansion one day to find the place is crawling with strange mutant creatures. To make matters worse, the mansion itself isn't looking too good. Strange holes in other dimensions have opened up and have made a mess of the mansion. Furthermore, Dr. Chaos is missing. The game takes place as a platform game where you must use various weapons like knives, pistols, machine guns, or grenades to fight your way past mutants and into various rooms of the mansion. Once in these rooms, the view changes to a first-person maze, and you'll need to open various cabinets, doors, and hit walls in special places to find access into a dimensional hole. Once you enter that dimensional hole, the game once again becomes a platform game where you will need to fight your way to the end of the level and defeat a boss monster to obtain a piece of the warp gate. Then, you'll have to proceed all the way back through the level and return to the mansion, where you will explore and find the next dimensional hole. Friday the 13th. Based on the popular movie franchise, Friday the 13th casts you as one of 6 camp counselors, 3 girls or 3 boys, at the infamous Camp Crystal Lake, and you are tasked with destroying Jason once and for all. To get to Jason, you must run around camp, killing zombie ghouls and collecting weapons until you hear an alarm sound. When that alarm goes off, it means Jason has entered a cabin and you must find him. To save time, you can switch between all 6 counselors depending on where you are. Once you enter the house that Jason is in, the game switches into a 3D-esque maze in which you have to hurt Jason with the items that you've collected. Once he's been damaged enough, he'll run away only to sound another alarm later and enter a house. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yes, this is the same game that AGVN featured in one of his episodes, but Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is based on the Robert Louis Stevenson novel, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The book follows a respected doctor who develops a serum that transforms him into the embodiment of his darkest thought and desires. He becomes a slave to his alter ego and is ultimately destroyed by it. In the game, Jekyll must make his way from his home to the church where he is to marry his sweetheart. You've got to keep his life bar and Jekyll to Hyde meter in check, or you'll find yourself changed into the nefarious Mr. Hyde. If this happens, Hyde must then defeat enough bad guys to raise the meter back up and allow the good doctor to continue on his quest. Monster Party. You are a young boy with a baseball bat named Mark. On your way home from a baseball game, you encounter a monster named Bert. Bert needs your help in saving his planet from the evil monsters. You learn how to fuse with Bert and become a monster-fighting gargoyle. Yes, this sounds insane, but you'll spend most of the game attacking bad guys by swinging your bat at them or returning their fire. This is a side-scrolling adventure game similar in play to Super Mario Bros., but with monsters and skulls. Now the game itself is pretty infamous for its hilarious and outlandish quotes. Shadowgate. Using the same graphical interface as Deja Vu, Shadowgate is an adventure game set in a fantasy world. Players take the part of an adventurer sent to the ancient keep of Shadowgate on a quest to find the mystic artifact known as the Staff of Ages and stop the evil warlock. So why do you need to stop this warlock? Well, he plans on summoning the evil, horrific demon to destroy the world. However, when you arrive, Shadowgate has become infested with the Warlock's demonic minions, not to mention that the castle itself has plenty of booby traps. Now, unlike Deja Vu, death comes at the protagonist suddenly, unexpectedly, and most of all, often. Such simple acts as pulling the wrong switch or opening the wrong door can cause the hero to be skewered by a booby trap or disemboweled by a monster. If the player's character torch burns out, and believe me, this happens quite a bit, and if the player forgets to light a new one, the protagonist will trip in the dark and break his neck. Phantom Fighter. Based on the 1985 Hong Kong movie Mr. Vampire, Phantom Fighter puts the player in the role of a Chinese warrior who walks with your pupil through several Chinese towns overtaken by phantoms. You'll need to enter each house and beat up all the phantoms using a variety of kung fu moves. After defeating a phantom, you'll receive a special gift that recovers your energy or enhances your fighting skills. During the game, you talk to different people who help you understand what's really going on. Now, this game is very repetitive, and once you've fought one vampire, you've pretty much fought them all. But I really wanted to showcase this game because I never hear anyone discuss it. So I'm asking you, let me know, is this game any good? Because I want it to be, but it just doesn't seem like it. A Nightmare on Elm Street. LJN's NES version of the classic horror series casts the player as a teen searching the houses on Elm Street for Freddy Krueger's bones. Once the bones are collected, they must be thrown into the high school furnace to destroy Freddy once and for all. Now, this game will have two worlds. In the red-tinted real world, players fight snakes and spiders while navigating standard platform challenges. The players here have a sleep meter that depletes with every hit taken. If the player's sleep meter drops to empty, the game transitions into a blue-tinted dream world where the enemies take on the appearance of skeletons and ghosts. An invisible timer also starts counting down until Freddy appears and forces the player into a brief boss battle. The sleep meter becomes a standard life gauge in the dream world and deducts life from the player if drained. Now, if the players find and collect 3 different icons in the dream world, they will become dream warriors with special powers and attacks, both of which can give a significant edge when fighting Freddy. Collecting all the bones in a level takes the player to a final level boss, usually taking the form of a monster with Freddy's face or trademark razor glove. Players can move back and forth down Elm Street and a new house opens as the previous one is cleared. Zombie Nation. In the very futuristic year of 1999, a mysterious object crashes into the desert and a mysterious creature, Darkseid, appears. Using magnetic powers, he soon turns the people of the United States into zombies and exerts influence over various weapons and objects. Among the weapons that Darkseid claims is the legendary samurai sword. When the great head of the samurai, Namakubi, hears about this, he sets out for the US to defeat Darkseid and reclaim the world. Zombie Nation is a side-scrolling shooter in which the player can control Namakubi's movement across the screen and the ability to shoot. His main weapon is the ability to shoot projectiles from his eyes and bombs from his mouth, which he fires at various enemies, objects, and buildings. Furthermore, should a zombie hostage fall out of the window, he can rescue them to slowly power up his attacks. Enemies reduce health by varying amounts, and health can be restored by increasing the player's score. This game features 4 distinct stages with 2 difficulty settings. Uninvited. Another game using the graphical adventure interface found in Deja Vu and Shadowgate, Uninvited comes with a unique horror theme. While driving on a lonely road at night, a strange figure blocks your vision, causing you to swerve and crash your car. When you regain consciousness, you find that your sister is missing. The only place that she could have gone is a creepy old mansion which looms in front of you. With nowhere else to go, you enter the mansion. It turns out that the mansion once belonged to an old wizard, and somehow it has now become infested with the undead. Frankenstein, the monster returns. The villagers thought they were safe, but now it is the time they learned of the terrible truth. Frankenstein has risen, laid waste to the lands, and has amassed an evil army of unholy creatures, and he's even kidnapped a young girl. Frankenstein is a side-scroller adventure against all sorts of nightmarish creatures. Some might even call it a clone of the widely known Castlevania games on the NES. You begin the game with nothing but your fists, but you may acquire a magical club from enemies. Finding additional power-ups will give the club the ability to shoot fireballs. There's also treasure chests in various rooms, as well as characters that can help you in your quest through dialogue hints. Ghoul School. In Ghoul School, the player is cast as Spike O'Hara, a senior at Ghoul School High in a small American town. Spike is a rebel and an outcast, but he's a good kid. While taking a shortcut through the graveyard to home one day, he comes across a glowing skull. Intrigued, he takes it to the Dr. Femur, his anatomy teacher, but the next day happens to be the day before Halloween. Dr. Femur wants to keep it overnight to study it, and Spike reluctantly agrees. During the night, the skull begins transmitting a message to the realm of the dead. On Halloween, the dead begin their assault. The teachers and students inside are turned into zombies, and demons under the control of whatever intelligence has taken over the school. Samantha Pom Pom, the head cheerleader, is captured by the dead and held somewhere inside the school. Paranormal eliminators and members of the football team have ventured inside to find her, but none of them have returned. When Spike learns of the mess from the TV news, he rushes to the school and decides to rescue her himself. Spike ventures inside, the doors shut, and they lock behind him. There's no turning back now. You'll begin your quest with your trusty baseball bat and battered sneakers, but can collect better weapons and shoes along the way. Among them are a sickle, embalming fluid, a towel, and an almighty gamma gun. Useful items also include spring shoes needed to reach higher places, the suction shoes which allow you to walk on the ceiling, and the golden apple needed to bypass the Medusa head guarding the way to the second half of the school. Now this is going to be a big game. You have 129 rooms to explore, and Samantha is counting on you. So, good luck! So there you have it, NES Horror Games. Which one of them have you played, or which one of them do you want to play now? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel to watch plenty of NES content. Thanks for watching.